I'm going to be ranking every nano coaster I have. Before we start, I want to say that I'm basing the rankings off of how tall it is and how good the nano coaster looks, and not how good the actual ride is. And also, I'm not doing the coaster models or the parkscapes. So in last place, I'm going with the Voyage nano coaster. Obviously, it's one of my favorite rides, but it's really a very small nano coaster. Look at that back there compared to this. It's just not very big. And some of those track sections there just look kind of weird. I guess that's when it's in a tunnel. Yeah, it's not a big nano coaster. And I also had trouble building it, which is my fault. But see these elevated pieces? They always give me trouble whenever I build them, so that's why Voyage is in last place at number 18. Alright, next is the original Bat from Kings Island. It's a good looking nano coaster, but it doesn't really do anything very special, and it's not very tall, so that's why it's in 17th place. Next up is King Cobra. It's a good looking one. It's pretty tall. I didn't do the best job building it, like you can see there, because it was one of my first nano coasters. But it's a pretty cool one, but it's compared to all the other ones, it's not really great. So that's why it's in 16th. Alright, in 15th place is the new or current Bat at Kings Island. It has a pretty cool, it's pretty tall, and the base is pretty big, and I love the colors, and the supports there are pretty cool as well. But it's not a very long layout, so that's why it's going in 15th place. So 14th place is Firehawk from Kings Island. Never got to ride it, but that doesn't affect the ranking of it. It's a pretty tall ride, but pretty tall nano coaster. But it doesn't really do anything that looks super special, besides the loop. The loop is cool, but yeah, it's just kind of an average nano coaster, so that's why it's in 14th place. In 13th is Orion at Kings Island. It's a pretty cool looking nano coaster. It's relatively tall. It'd probably be higher if it was when I built nano coasters very good, because this was the first one I ever built. So I don't think that helps it, but compared to Fury and Millennium Force, it's not nearly as big as them, which part of that's just because the layout isn't as big. But that's why it's in 13th place. In 12th place is Copperhead Strike from Carowinds. It's kind of just an average nano coaster. It's not very big, part of that's also because it has a long layout. But one thing that I think hurts it is that, inversions on nano coasters just don't look like inversions unless they're a loop or a Cobra roll. See, the JoJo roll, that just looks like, I don't know, a little hill out of the station. And also, it doesn't show quite as good on camera, but the color of this compared to the real ride is a lot more red than orange, so I don't think that helps it either. So that's why it's in 12th. 7th is Diamondback from Kings Island. It's a pretty cool model, but it doesn't really do anything very special. And also the colors on this are more from when Diamondback looked like McDonald's and not the maroon. So I think that knocks it down a little bit. But it's a pretty good nano coaster for what it is, but it doesn't really do anything better than any of the nano coasters above it. 10th, I'm going with Raptor from Cedar Point. It's a good looking nano coaster. And I love how the Cobra roll looks in the loop, because those are inversions that you can actually tell are inversions from a nano coaster. One thing that I didn't love about this is you might not be able to tell super well, but this was one of the worst nano coasters to build. I don't really know why, but it was just really hard to build. But I love how the green looks, but it's not super big, and it doesn't really do anything super special, so that's why it's in 10th place. 9th, I'm going with Flower Raven from Cedar Point. It's a cool looking nano coaster. I love the drop, but it's not really, it's not very big compared to some of the other ones. Well, actually it kind of is. But it's not very long, and it doesn't have a very big footprint, so that's why it's in 9th place. And 8th, I'm going with Magnum XL 200 from Cedar Point. It's a pretty cool looking nano coaster. Especially, I like the old style supports. I think they look a lot better than just the basic supports. But it's not a super big nano coaster. but it's pretty cool. And part of it's because the layout just is pretty simple to start with. But it's a good looking nano coaster, so that's why it's in 8th place, I think. I'm going with Fury 325 and Fairwinds. This is one of the bigger nano coasters. It has, if you can see there, a snap-on piece, so that's how you know it's big. But it's not super tall, probably because it's such a long ride. And that's about all I've got to say. It's a great nano coaster, but it's not better than the ones above. I'm going with Banshee at Kings Island. It's a good looking nano coaster. If you're wondering why it looks a little bit deformed, first of all, this was one of the first nano coasters I ever built. But also, I knocked it off the shelf one time, which was a pretty big fall for it. So that doesn't help it, but the pretzel knot looks really cool in the 2 loops. I especially love how the loop that goes through the lift looks, but it's not better than any of the nano coasters above it. This lightning rod from Dollywood. This is a pretty great looking nano coaster. Yeah, it's pretty big. I saw one in Dollywood in one of the shops that had like a little shed on it up here. But I don't know why mine doesn't have that, or that one did. But it's a pretty great nano coaster. Beware though, it is pretty hard to build. These terrain pieces, like I said on Voyage, they're pretty hard to build and shape. But it looks pretty awesome. I especially like how the wooden structure looks. And 4th, I'm going with Gatekeeper from Cedar Point. I love how the lift and drop looks. And I also like how they did like the park entrance through the keyholes and the little entrance down there. So I think that really elevates it for me, because that's something that not a lot of nano coasters have. So that's why it's in 4th place. And 3rd, I'm going with Tennessee Tornado from Dollywood. This is one of the best looking nano coasters, I think. I really like how it's like on top of the hill or mountain it's on. And I love the big loops and what is that? Well, I'm blanking on it right now. I love that. And I just think it's a really cool looking nano coaster. And it's also one of the tallest. So that's why it's in 3rd place. 2nd, I'm going with Son of Beast from Kings Island. Son of Beast is one of the coolest nano coasters, I think. Part of it being because it's a very big nano coaster. Like look at Bat. Look at Bat compared to Beast. It's way bigger. The lift is huge, or the lift hill and drop are huge. The loop looks awesome, and the helix is pretty cool, even though it doesn't technically have like the second lap of the loop, and that looks kind of funny, but it's still really good. And I love how the wood structures look, like I was saying. I just think it looks super cool compared to like normal base structures, like on like Orion or Banshee. So that's why it's in 2nd place. And in number 1, this one wasn't even really very close, is Millennium Force from Cedar Point. It's by far the biggest base. Like look at the base of Millie compared to Valraven, and even compared to like Fury, it's a lot bigger than Fury. And the custom supports for the lift are awesome, and for the overbank. And I think the big hills look really nice as well, and it's just so big compared to a lot of the other nano coasters. So that's why it's 1st place. Alright, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.